Africa is in the midst of a transformation most people are unaware of. In 2025, cameras and sensors captured an unprecedented sight. The ground in Ethiopia began to sink before the eyes of witnesses. The earth cracked open, forming deep fissures where roads and homes could vanish. This isn't a scene from a movie. It's happening right now, beneath millions of people in one of the most extreme regions on Earth. But what is causing this split? Below the surface, tension builds slowly, almost imperceptibly, until it is suddenly released in powerful jolts. If you've ever wondered what it looks like when a continent begins to tear apart, you're watching it unfold right now. We've always thought of the ground as solid, as if continents were permanent. We build cities, lay down roads, assuming that the foundation beneath us is immovable. But take a look at East Africa, and that belief vanishes. There, the plains are sliced by enormous cracks extending to the horizon. Scientists call this the East African Rift, which is actually the beginning of a new ocean forming. The land may eventually give way to water, and where roads and villages stand, the Earth's crust is slowly stretching and thinning. To grasp the magnitude of this, let's go back to March 2018 in the village of Mai Mahiu, Kenya. For Eliud Njoroge and his wife, it was an ordinary evening. Rain had been falling for days. The lamp was on. The family was having dinner when a strange sound echoed, a dry crack, like ceramic breaking. It quickly turned into a low rumble, but it wasn't from the roof or outside. It came from beneath. Later, Eliud described it to reporters. It wasn't like an earthquake. The ground didn't shake. The dishes didn't rattle. The house just gave way. The concrete floor cracked open. A wall tilted, and part of their house disappeared into the widening crack. Eliud grabbed his wife's hand just in time, seconds before the room fell into the gap. By morning, it was clear this wasn't just a local disaster or the result of rain. Drone footage revealed an incredible sight, a massive crack stretching through green fields, roads, and residential areas. The crack was nearly perfectly straight, as though someone had drawn it with a knife. It was 20 meters wide and 15 meters deep, about the height of a 5-story building. But what truly shocked people wasn't just the size, but how suddenly it appeared. There were no warning tremors, no rumbling noise. The ground simply opened. The official explanation was that heavy rains had washed away loose volcanic ash, destabilizing the soil and causing it to collapse. This seemed plausible at first, but experts noticed something else. The crack followed an ancient tectonic fault line, cutting straight through elevations instead of around them. This was not erosion. It was a shift in the Earth's crust. Looking at Africa on a map, we see that the continent is slowly splitting apart. The African lithospheric plate is separating into two parts: the Western Nubian plate and the Eastern Somali plate, drifting apart by about 6 to 7 millimeters annually. For humans, this movement is hardly noticeable, but in geological terms, even the slightest shift can cause immense stress. Energy builds up over centuries, only to be released in moments like the one witnessed in Kenya. If the crack in Kenya is just beginning, 1,000 kilometers to the north, a much more dramatic change is already underway. Here, lush savannas are giving way to barren volcanic deserts. Dark basalt fields, sulfur deposits, and air heated by extreme temperatures dominate the land. This is one of the hottest regions on Earth, yet people still live here. Local lore says that the devil himself plows the land, In 2005, this saying became terrifyingly literal. In early September, nomads noticed strange behavior among their animals. Camels refused to lie down. Goats ran frantically, sensing something humans couldn't yet perceive. The surface appeared normal, but beneath it, a transformation was taking place. Then, a series of earthquakes hit the region. Over 10 days, instruments recorded 163 quakes above magnitude 3. It wasn't a single shock, but a continuous swarm. The ground vibrated almost non-stop, as though some immense machine was operating beneath. On September 14th, the main event occurred. A massive crack, 60 kilometers long and up to 8 meters wide, opened in the desert. It was as though the land had been sliced across an entire city, wide enough to fit a bus. Geologically, it happened almost instantly. Steam and gases poured out of the fissure, the air thick with heat. Cracks like this usually take centuries to form, but here, the process seemed to happen in days. What takes nature hundreds of years to create occurred in mere hours. Fresh magma emerged. Dark smoke billowed into the air. This is how the Earth creates new ocean floors, but on land. Water is missing for now, but the land is sinking and heating. Satellites show some areas are already 100 meters below sea level, like the height of a 30-story building, but downward. Separating this vast sinking basin from the Red Sea is a narrow strip of rock called the Eritrean Highlands, already covered with small cracks. The question is not if this barrier will give way, but when. A single strong jolt could cause water to flood in, creating a new coastline in hours. But why is this happening now? And why so rapidly? For years, scientists thought Africa was splitting along one straight line, like tearing a sheet of paper. But in 2020, a study revealed a more complex reality. Within the rift lies a massive block of rock about the size of Germany. It includes Lake Victoria, nearly all of Uganda, and parts of Kenya. This block is rotating slowly. Imagine a massive stone wedged between two moving plates. As they separate, the block turns counterclockwise, imperceptibly at first. But over millions of years, those millimeters of movement turn into kilometers. This caused the Earth to crack unpredictably. Where the pressure is too great, cracks form first, then fractures, and eventually the ground opens. But what can move a piece of the continent? The official explanation is that beneath the crust lies a softer layer, allowing the plates to move slowly, like ice flows on water. It's a gradual process, but constant. But there's a broader theory. Deep beneath the continent, a massive column of superheated material, called the African superplume, is pushing the continent apart, like an eggshell. To understand this, we must look deep into places where water turns acidic, and air burns the lungs. At the Ethiopian-Eritrean border lies Dalol, one of the most alien landscapes on Earth. The colors here seem impossible. Neon yellow fields, green toxic pools, rust red flows. This is not a filter or illusion. It's the result of chemical reactions happening beneath your feet. Dalol is the lowest land-based volcano on Earth, with its crater 48 meters below sea level. Heated underground waters bring sulfur and salt to the surface, creating a hostile environment where life cannot survive. In 2019, microbiologists found that the active hydrothermal zones here are sterile. Despite the presence of water, no life forms can thrive. This is an example of what a future ocean floor might look like if the rift splits the continent. Further south, in Tanzania, Lake Natron's water is so alkaline that it resembles a mixture of soda and ammonia. The temperature can reach 60 degrees Celsius in shallow areas. Animals that fall in don't decompose. They're preserved in salt, becoming petrified sculptures. But acidic lakes are visible. You can see the strange water, smell the sulfur, and instinctively avoid it. The rift system, however, has a more insidious weapon: invisible gas. You can't see it, you can't hear it, and you can't tell when it's close. In 1986, at Lake Nyos in Cameroon, an odd, invisible cloud of carbon dioxide descended, suffocating 1,746 people and 3,500 livestock. The gas seeped from deep within the lake and spread along the ground, displacing oxygen. It's an example of how cracks in the Earth's crust are not just fractures, they're valves releasing pressure. No one knows where or when the next release will happen. East Africa contains deep lakes like Lake Kivu and Lake Malawi, where gases like carbon dioxide and methane are dissolved in deep layers of water. Gas is the most dangerous factor. It's invisible and undetectable. It might seem like the rift is just geology, but the deeper we look, the less it seems like a natural process. What if life hasn't disappeared here, but is hiding deep within the earth? We're used to thinking that life needs light, water, and moderate temperatures, but science has shown that certain organisms can survive in extreme conditions like boiling water, acid, and radiation. What if life has moved deeper into the planet, hiding in fractures beneath the surface? Scientists have hypothesized that there is a deep biosphere, a hidden world kilometers below the surface, where microorganisms live without sunlight, feeding on hydrogen, sulfur, and methane. This is the unsettling thought. The rift is like a portal, exposing depths that were sealed for millions of years. And what if ancient life forms rise to the surface with the magma and gases? We don't know what they are, and we don't know how they would interact with our biology. The rift is not just a crack. It's an opening to an unknown world. But if we go deeper still, the truth becomes even more disturbing. About 3,000 kilometers beneath Africa, at the mantle core boundary, lies an anomaly known as the blob. It's a massive, slow-moving mass of superheated material, changing the properties of the surrounding rock. This pressure is what drives the rift. It doesn't create sudden explosions, but it gradually weakens the crust, causing the plates to shift. The African superplume is slowly rising, acting like a giant burner beneath the lithosphere. But the true source of movement is still hidden, buried in darkness. If the sea superplume is real, what happens when the pressure becomes unbearable? And could this deep flow also contribute to the eruption of gases and magma that caused the disaster at Lake Nyos? We're living on top of a giant cauldron, and as the rift expands, the pressure beneath increases. But what if the planet has already gone through a similar phase in the past? In 1972, scientists discovered strange uranium deposits in West Africa, evidence of a natural nuclear reaction. Groundwater acted as a moderator, sustaining the reaction for hundreds of thousands of years. It's a reminder that the Earth's internal heat hasn't disappeared. The planet is still accumulating energy that needs to escape, and the rift is the outlet. In Lalibela, Ethiopia, ancient temples were carved into rock, suggesting an understanding of the land's seismic activity. The builders carved downward into the bedrock, providing stability during earthquakes. The rift zone is moving northeast toward the Gulf of Aden, where international trade routes cross. Ships from the US, China, Russia, and the European Union patrol the region, ostensibly for shipping security. But beneath the surface, the mantle is rising. Imagine a slow-moving flow of superheated material pressing against the crust. This is not an instantaneous explosion, but a gradual widening of fractures. The question is no longer whether the rift will form, but when. In 5 or 10 million years, the map of this region will be radically different. The Somali Plate will eventually separate from the African continent, becoming an island in the Indian Ocean. Over time, East Africa will become a coastline of a new ocean. When that sea forms, it will change everything: currents, winds, climates, and human life. The coastline we know today will no longer exist, and human life will shift as well. The rift is a reminder of the Earth's constant change. And as we stand on its edge, we must ask ourselves, how will humanity adapt to this inevitable transformation? What do you think? Let us know in the comments.